we are giving away a ticket to the USA versus Ghana game in Natal on June 16th.
Go to abroaders.com/winworldcup and apply for that ticket.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning, and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Travel Podcast. I'm AJ Dunn here with Erik Paquette, and today we're going to talk about Starwood Preferred Guest points. You can find today's show notes for the episode at abroaders.com/usespg.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing, AJ?
And doing well. Still in Detroit. All is well here. I've been spending a lot of time in a co-working space here called An Office in Detroit. It's a really, really cool place. It's not your typical co-working space where it's, a high-tech standing desk, a bunch of cool gadgets, and that kind of hip vibe that you get at a lot of them. It's a bit more grungy, not in the nicest part of town, but it's loaded with intellectual capital, really cool people that are all doing really cool things, have some Code for America people, a lot of people doing some social and civic initiatives. So, it's been really good to get back in there, man. So
I like that, man. I like that intellectual capital. That's cool.
It's true, man. It's been to co-working spaces on a few continents, and there's nothing like an office in Detroit. I feel like every single person there, I'm just intimidated by how smart they are, man. It's cool, man, and that everyone's friendly. So it's a really good vibe, man. So how's Brazil, man? Crazy stuff going on in Salvador, right?
Yeah, so I've got a couple weeks left here in Salvador, and the last couple days have been a bit tumultuous. So I wanted to share with everybody what's been going on and pass on a safety tip that could possibly keep you out of a nasty situation if you're in a place like Salvador. So this week, the leader of the military police, or PM, announced a statewide strike in an effort to undermine the state government of Bahia, which is controlled by a rival party. And the military police, as you know, in Brazil are not a very well-liked or respected security force. They're notoriously corrupt and in some cases can be more dangerous than criminals. However, the presence of a police force, even a crappy one, still is a manifestation of state control and deters crime. And so, I hate the political bullshit that goes on in the U.S., but this definitely puts cheap shots in perspective. So this strike did happen. They announced it 48 hours before it was going to happen, and it went on for almost 2 days. And in 46 hours, 52 people were killed in the Salvador metro area. So Salvador is not, the safest city in the world. It's actually on the list of one of the more dangerous, but the average is probably around 5 murders a day here in Salvador. And so obviously 50 in a couple of days was a lot. And so the point of going into this is that I would have had no clue this was going on if I weren't living with my girlfriend here and she had told me that this was going on. All the locals knew what was up. The buses stopped at 6 p.m. the first day of the strike, and everybody got out of the streets. There was nobody out. But a regular gringo that's, a tourist on vacation here is not going to have any idea of what's going on. And in fact, before dark, we were out. We just went to the beach for half an hour or so to check out the sunset. And this guy was out there with probably like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of camera gear. And, this happy-go-lucky is a Norwegian dude, and he had no idea what was going on. And, so I pulled him aside and was like, man, you got to go home. It's getting dark. There's no police tonight. And so anyways, the point here is that you're probably not going to be aware of this type of thing going down unless you've got local friends. There's a program offered by the U.S. Department of State called the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP for short. And basically the consulate will send out warnings about this kind of stuff. And, I used it when I was in Colombia. I got some advisory emails about protests and stuff like that. So definitely, if you're going someplace where you don't speak the language and you're not planning on staying tuned into the news, sign up for those email alerts, because it's obviously really important that if the police force stops working for a couple of days, you're probably not going to want to be out and about.
Yeah, man, that's that's some pretty heavy stuff. Getting things back to a little bit lighter of a note. So, Eric and I are working on finalizing our itinerary for the World Cup. So far, we've been able to use points for about 75% of the air travel, but as far as the how much the air travel would cost, we just bought it. Spent about 95% of the cost we've been able to redeem using points. We've just pieced together a couple short, cheap flights within Brazil. So, Eric's going to be hitting Rio and Salvador before joining me in Fortaleza and Natal. I'll probably be spending a couple days in Sao Paulo. So between the two of us, this could be pretty cool. We'll have like 5 host cities for World Cup games that we'll be able to check out. So if you are planning on going to Brazil, shoot us an email and we would love to meet up with you guys.
Yes, and also don't forget we are giving away a ticket to the USA versus Ghana game in Natal on June 16th. We're going to contact the winner right after the show airs on Wednesday, April 30th. So the deadline is Tuesday night before next week's show to get that in. And we're going to be contacting the winner on Wednesday to let them know. We'll announce the winner coming up the following week. So if you haven't already, head over to abroaders.com/winworldcup and put your hat in the ring. We'd love to enjoy that game with you in Salvador and Natal.
Yeah, man. Remember, we're going to do whatever we can to help you get airfare booked to get to Brazil. So don't skip entering because you're not sure if you can swing the international flight. And another insider's tip, because I've seen all the people that have applied so far, we've gotten a decent amount, but your odds are still pretty good considering the giveaway. So don't shy away from applying.
Yeah, don't count yourself out. We're going to dive into Starwood Preferred Guest points in just a second. But before that, do you have some inspiration for us, AJ?
Yes, I do, man. Something that I revisited. I think you actually maybe sent me the link, but so one of the ultimate slow travel opportunities for startups out there is a program called Startup Chile. In a nutshell, you apply for the program, and if you are lucky enough or good enough to get accepted, your venture will be given $40,000 US in equity-free seed money. So that's pretty huge. That's unusual that you'd get that type of investment without taking any stake in your company. Eric and I, we've not participated in the program, but we have had friends that have done it and said it was just an incredible experience. So each year, the program opens up 3 application rounds, and in each application round, 100 teams are selected, and the next application round is in June. So if you are interested, there's a few things you should know. You got to have a big idea. They're looking for huge, global, scalable ideas. So they don't accept consulting companies, import-export companies, and franchises because, as they say it, they are not easily scalable on a global level. So if you have a web design company like Eric and I, you are not going to get in. But if you got a really big idea, it's definitely worth going for it. And we'll make sure we link to that in the show notes.
Cool, man. All right, let's get into the core content today using Starwood Preferred Guest points. To review, SPG stands for Starwood Preferred Guest, and that's the loyalty program for Starwood hotels. You'll also see these referred to on the web as Star Points. And unlike most hotels, this loyalty program goes really far beyond redeeming for free nights at Starwood properties. And so Starwood is probably the most versatile points currency out there because they have 32 airline transfer partners, in addition to giving you the ability to book at around 1,100 hotels worldwide. We could spend a whole episode talking about strategies for redeeming SPG points for free nights, but that isn't really either of our expertise, and unless you really value luxury hotels, I find it pretty hard to make an argument that there's a better use for SPG points than transferring to their airline partners. So, today we are going to focus on redeeming for airfare. The 32 airline programs that SPG partners with give you the ability to book a ticket with nearly 120 different airlines via all the airline global alliances and partnerships. We've included a really useful Excel document created by blogger The Points Guy, and you're going to want to download this and save it as a reference. I use it all the time. It basically is going to just make it possible for you to go through and see all of the different airlines that you could actually book a seat on, because like I said before, those airline alliances and partnerships get complicated. So check that out. You might even want to pull it up and take a look as we're going over some of the stuff in the episode today.
Yeah, and so like last week's episode with Amex membership rewards, we're to go through the ins and outs of earning, transferring, and redeeming SPG. Then we'll go a bit more in depth on a couple specific airlines that we think have really good opportunities for you. And the biggest advantage of transferable points, like Erik said before, in general, is that they insulate you from changes in any particular program. So if one airline makes a negative change, like raising prices, you can just move your points to a different transfer partner. All right, Erik, let's get started. How do abroaders start earning SPG points?
Okay, so the only co-branded credit cards that offer SPG points are issued by Amex, which can create some confusion because Amex membership rewards are a completely separate program and a different transferable currency altogether. For that one, definitely check out episode 16. That was last week, talking about Amex membership rewards. Earning Starwood Preferred Guests via sign-up bonuses is a little bit more difficult than Chase and Amex because there are currently only two credit card offerings, a personal and a business card issued by American Express. We've got links for both cards in the show notes, and right now you can get 25,000 points for each card, which is broken down into 10,000 on the first purchase and 15,000 more after you spend $5,000 in 6 months. So, the annual fee on those two cards is one of the more modest in the world of rewards credit cards. It's $65 per year for each card, and it is waived for the first year. So that means you could grab both the personal and the business card and get those bonuses, so 50,000 Starwood points altogether with no upfront costs. And you're always able to go ahead and cancel that card or downgrade it to a no-fee card before the annual fee hits. So, you sign up for both of those, it's going to net you a total of 50,000 Starwood Preferred Guest points, but you're also going to have to spend 10,000 between the two cards over that 6 months to get there. So your total take is going to be 60,000 points, which actually would become 75,000 airline points if you do your transfer correctly. We're going to cover that in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, just one thing for everyone to keep in mind too, $10,000 to spend can seem a bit intimidating, but there are some, as Erik and AJ calls it, manufactured spending techniques that will help you spend money without actually spending money. So another thing to note is there are unconfirmed but credible rumors that Amex is updating its application rules starting May 1st, 2014, so that customers can only earn a bonus on a particular card one time in his or her life. Previously, the rule was that you could, every 12 months, each year, you could get the bonus one time. So that's definitely something interesting to keep in mind.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So to reiterate, Amex right now, the rule is if you haven't had the card for at least 12 months. So if you've closed the card more than 12 months ago, you're re-eligible for the bonus. I actually just checked, and unfortunately, I closed my personal card to avoid the annual fee for the Starwood Preferred Guest last August. So I'm not eligible to sign up again and try and get that bonus another time. But this one-time per life policy is something that Chase does. We don't know if Amex is actually going to do it or actually going to enforce it, but it doesn't seem that far-fetched that Amex would follow Chase's lead. So, key takeaway, if you used to have one of those cards, check and see how long it's been closed. If it's been more than 12 months, you should probably make your application before May 1st. Otherwise, just go out and sign up for the card if you've never had it before. It's a great, great deal, and we're about to tell you why.
Yeah, so since there are only two credit card products that earn SPG, you're not going to build some, crazy stockpile of 500,000 or 1 million points through credit card applications. But outside the bonuses, there are some huge opportunities earning SPG points just with your spend, whether you have a business or you get reimbursed for purchases that you make for your employer or just on a personal card. Those points can add up really quickly, and like Erik said, they're super valuable with how you can transfer them.
Okay, so two caveats here. Make sure that if you're acquiring points through spending, you're only using the Starwood Preferred Guest card for spending that can't earn a category bonus with another card. So, for example, the Chase Ink card earns 5 times points at office supply stores. So if you go to Staples or Office Max and you buy a printer or even just buy gift cards there, you're going to get 5 times the points for every dollar you spend. So you wouldn't want to use your Starwood business card there. The other reason you don't use it is both of these cards have a 3% foreign transactions fee. So you don't ever want to use it abroad because that's basically going to wipe out the value of your points. And it also includes where you're paying merchants that are based outside of the U.S. AJ and I learned that one the hard way, paying a couple of our foreign contractors via PayPal. So just keep those two things in mind. Every other situation, when it's not a foreign transaction and you don't have the opportunity to earn a bunch of bonus points with a different card, SPG is one of the best places that you can put your everyday spending.
Yeah, and as far as applying for those SPG cards, to keep in mind when you're planning your credit card turns is that you can combine your application for those SPG cards with other credit cards that earn points for their transfer partners, like U.S. Airways card from Barclays, Alaska Airlines card from Bank of America, and the American Advantage card from Citibank. That way you'll already have some points by the time you get those SPG points to transfer over.
Cool, great tip, man. Yeah, because if you're only earning 60,000 SPG, you might need to have some extra points. So if you decide in advance which transfer partner you're going to use, you can earn some points in that account as well. Last but not least, SPG points can be combined with family members. So you and your spouse, or even a close friend, if you don't mind listing the same address, can both apply for each of these cards and bring in double the points. All right, that does it for earning. Let's lead off with some transfer basics, AJ.
Okay, so as Eric mentioned earlier, SPG has built-in transfer bonus when moving points to airline partners. With Amex transfer bonus, which we covered last week, transfers are specific to one partner for a limited time. So for example, right now there's a 30% bonus to Virgin America, which lasts through April 30th. So with SPG, every unit of 20,000 points gets you a 5,000 point bonus. So with any 1-to-1 ratio partner, you get 25,000 airline miles for every 20,000 Starwood Preferred Guest points. And you can only move 79,999 points per 24-hour period. So you're going to want to move only 60,000 points per day and then get 75,000 in your airline account so you don't miss out on that 5,000 point bonus.
Most but not all partners are at a 1-to-1 ratio. We've linked in the show notes to SPG's list of partners and the ratios. The next thing that you should know about SPG points is that you can transfer the points in your account to the account of another member in your household.
Hey, Eric, let me jump in for a second, too, just for people that may not have understood. So when we talk about transferring at a 1-to-1 ratio, that just means that one SPG point will end up being one whatever other partner point mile.
The example there would be like American Airlines is one of the transfer partners. If I transfer 15,000 Starwood points, I'm going to get 15,000 American points because they're a 1-to-1. But like AJ just said, there's that bonus for every unit, every chunk of 20K that you transfer. So if I transfer 20,000 Starwood points, I'm going to end up with 25,000 American. And that's why that 79,999 point limit is a little bit of a trap, because you don't want to transfer more than 60K. If you transfer that 79,000 points, you're going to miss out on one of the 5K bonuses. So keep it to 60,000 a day and just wait that for another 24 hours to make that last transfer if you got to move more points than that. All right, as I was saying, you can combine household points. So if I have the same address as AJ on my Starwood Preferred Guest account, and let's say I have 45,000 points and AJ has 15,000 points, we can combine those balances into one account, which is a huge advantage because of the 5,000 point bonus for every 20,000 point transfer. So in this scenario, AJ and I would combine our Starwood points before transferring to a partner. And since combined we'd have 60,000, we would be able to make those 3 sets of 20 and max out the transfer bonus, whereas alone we would end up earning fewer points because I'd be transferring 45 and he'd be transferring 15. We wouldn't get as many bonuses. This type of internal Starwood sharing is called a household transfer. To be eligible, as I said before, all you need to do is have your same address listed on the account for at least 30 days. You don't have to have the same last name, so this works for AJ and I even though we're not related. The transfer, however, is not instant. It takes up to 5 days, and normally it'll only take 1 or 2, but you do need to plan ahead and consolidate your points before you want to transfer to one of those airline partners.
Yeah, so there's a bit less flexibility, or at least consistency, when it comes to transferring SPG points to another person's frequent flyer account, which makes the household transfer Eric just covered even more important. If Eric needs some American Airline miles to have enough to make an award booking, I cannot transfer my SPG points directly to his account. This is a key differentiator comparing SPG to Amex. With Amex, I can transfer my membership awards directly to Eric's Delta account, but I can't give Eric my Amex points. Starwood's the opposite. I can give my points directly to Erik as long as we've had the same address for 30 days. In most cases, I can't move SPG points in my name to a frequent flyer account in Erik or anyone else's name.
One of the major drawbacks of SPG is that transfers to partners are not instant. Transfer times vary from program to program and aren't even always consistent for one program in particular. So this is highly significant because you only want to transfer Starwood Preferred Guest points when you're ready to make a specific award booking. Otherwise, you want to keep those points in your SPG account and maintain the flexibility of moving to any of the 32 transfer partners. So without the instant transfers, you run the risk of moving points and then waiting for that to process and having the award ticket you were looking at getting ready to book disappear. So somebody else might take it or the airline might remove it from inventory. Still, you can minimize the risk of losing your seat by taking a close look at availability and knowing the approximate transfer time for your Starwood points to reach your airline account. So again, check availability and make sure you're not looking at the last available seat. Sometimes the website will tell you this. Like for example, British Airways, their website tells you how many award tickets are available on that flight. Other times you're not going to know from the website, you may have to call, but it's well worth it. So if you're looking at a seat and it turns out that's the last business class seat in the award inventory, you might want to reconsider transferring your Starwood Preferred Guest points because you can never transfer them back. Once you move them to an airline partner, they're there. The next thing is take a look at the table that we've linked to in the show notes for transfer times. If you don't find the program you need, try a Google search or contact us directly and we'll try to help. The table that you're going to find is a blog post by a really good points blogger, but those are just his experience. So he actually made test transfers to a bunch of the different partners to test it out and see how long it would take. And that's one of the things I was mentioning before. Even within a single program, it's not always the same. So he did 2 different transfers to ANA, and one of them took 3 days, the other one took almost a week. So it's not very consistent, but hopefully that chart will give you a little bit of a better guideline. And if you're having trouble with it, feel free to shoot us an email and we'll do what we can to help.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Another thing that just came to mind, I think it would be worthwhile to have a couple of our graphic designers whip up some flow charts, some like really nicely designed flow charts that kind of show people a nice visual of where all the points can be transferred and how they cannot be transferred. Getting back on track here, though, before we sign off, we're going to give you a couple specific examples of how you might use your SPG points. First, there's a Nights in Flights redemption. How cute is that, Nights in Flights? So this bundles hotel and airfare at a discount, as you can imagine. So option 1 costs 60,000 SPG points, and it gives you 50,000 points to transfer to any one-to-one airline partner and 5 nights at a Category 3 hotel or resort. So, for example, you could stay at the Category 3 Sheraton in downtown Barcelona for 5 nights. Now, with option 2, you can pay an extra 10,000 points and get 5 nights at a Category 4 hotel or resort, like the Sheraton Libertador in Buenos Aires for 5 nights. So, in both cases, you'd have most of the American or U.S. Airways miles you'd need for an economy redemption and about half of a business class redemption.
Yeah, that's a great deal. So just to clarify, the category is just a rating set by Starwood. So the higher the category rating, the nicer the hotel. And essentially, this is like a bundle transfer. You use 60,000 star points, you get the 5 free nights at that hotel. Or if you want to go for the Category 4, you're going to have to use 70,000. But you also get 50,000 points transferred to one of the airline partners. It doesn't have to be American or U.S. Airways. Those are just examples, but they're good ones because with American or U.S. Airways, you can typically get to Europe or get to South America almost for 50,000. It's a little bit more expensive, but it gets you most of the way there in economy. All right. Next one we want to talk about is Japan Airlines. Japan has a distance-based chart for partners. Their own flights are a zone-based chart. So if you're flying on Japan Airlines itself, you're looking at a zone chart. But the partner chart is distance-based, and it can be hugely advantageous if your route happens to fall just inside the high end of one of the price bands. So for example, anywhere between 14,000 and 20,000 miles would cost you only 80,000 star points, which convert to 100,000 with that bonus Japan Airlines miles. So that's a business class ticket. For example, LAX to Dubai on their partner Emirates. Emirates has a really, really nice business class, by the way. So that's a great one to check out. You can use Great Circle Mapper. It's gcmap.com. We've linked to that in the show notes as well to check the distance between airports. So all you got to do is enter the 2 airports and it'll tell you how far that is. And that's the number you're going to plug into Japan Airlines distance-based chart. Japan is a member of One World Alliance, so there are some great partners to pick from.
Yeah, but one caveat here is that you can't combine partner airlines on a redemption. So if you're taking that Emirates flight Erik mentioned, you can't use American Airlines or U.S. Airways to get to Los Angeles. Now, the next partner is Alaska Airlines. These guys are special because they're not in one of the big 3 alliances, but they have a very diverse set of independent partnerships. Alaska wins on price in a lot of head-to-head award chart comparisons. So, for example, Cathay Pacific first class award from New York City to Vancouver is $35,000 one way. Land business class to South America is $45,000 each way. So that's $5,000 less than booking with American. And then American Airlines, booking through Alaska can get you to Central America or Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador for 15,000 miles each way in coach. In business class, that's $30,000, and in first class, that's $40,000. So those are significant savings compared to booking with American, and there are a ton more examples. So take a look at Alaska's chart if you have a second.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And the difference there is that the division for Alaska with their zone-based chart is a little bit different than it is for American. So you're saving money on the northern half of South America in comparison to American. For the most part, if you're going all the way south, Buenos Aires, Santiago, some parts of Brazil, it's going to be close to the same pricing with American. But with Alaska, those Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, and all of Central America are quite a bit cheaper. And especially the first class. If you get a 40,000 point first class flight from the US to the top part of South America, that's going to be a really good deal. All right, so we're about out of time here. I would say that American and U.S. Airways are probably the next most valuable Starwood Preferred Guest partners because they have a huge network of routes from the United States and they don't pass on fuel surcharges. I hope that you guys got some big value out of today's show. I definitely recommend adding some SPG points to your portfolio next time you make a round of credit card applications. Anything else before we sign off, amigo?
Yeah, man, I just got a very, very urgent notice from our show's producer urging all of the listeners to go to abroaders.com/winworldcup and apply for that ticket. So hope to see some more entries trickle in. We're excited to pick somebody and meet up with somebody in Brazil, check out that game.
Awesome, man. All right, well, that just leaves one final order of business. This week's International Jam is not technically international if you're a U.S.-based listener, but they are from Alaska, and I imagine there's probably a decent number of Americans who think that's a foreign country anyways. Regardless, good music is good music, and I had to share this one with you guys. Portugal, The Man, has been producing some great jams since the mid-2000s. They're finally starting to get a foothold and get some mainstream attention. This track is called Hip Hop Kids. It's from their 2013 release, Evil Friends. Wherever you guys are, travel safe. We will see you next week.
Good tune, man. Good pick.
I went out to take a walk with my baby daughter. Grabbed a coat from Paris, that one I bought her. And we brought some bread to feed the swans, but they were already gone. They were already gone. Yeah, the parks are done. Fuck those rock and rollers. All we hip-hop kids think we give a shit when we don't, we don't, we don't, we don't, we don't, we don't.
Hey, brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.
What's the word?